Welcome to Domus Frassicus, home of the big beautiful wall, making it the best home in the Homestead patch. It's been a while since I updated my Magic Templar build, so I'm going to go ahead and talk through why my build is just slightly different than the meta. It's actually the same gear sets, but I think it's actually better. So I'm going to jump in right away. Character is a Dark Elf Dunmer. I prefer it for the fire damage since we're doing so much fire damage. You can also be a High Elf, you can also be a Breton, you can be anything you want, but I think that the Dunmer is the best option in this case. This is pretty maxed out with all the traits and enchants that we can get, all gold gear, so this is about as high as you can get on max mag. 42.6k, health is at 17.1, looks even better if someone's wearing Ebon in a trial. Spell crit at 61.9%, and spell damage totally unbuffed at 23.52. When you get totally buffed up with Burning Spellweave and Moon Dancer, which we're using, Powerful Assault if someone's running that, and Spell Power Cure, you are well over 5k spell damage, which is just ridiculous. Everything is in Magicka. We're using max health and max Magicka. Food, as usual. The Thief, because that's always the best. And we have Minor Slayer from Moon Dancer. So I'm going to do skills first, and then that will help me explain why my particular gear choices make a little bit more sense. So let's go to the back bar first. You see I am actually using a Maelstrom Inferno Staff, sharpened. I see a lot of people using the Moon Dancer Inferno Staff here, but I think that the Inferno Staff from Maelstrom Arena actually does a little bit better, and I'll explain why. So skills, first the ultimate, Fiery Rage. I actually switch this out sometimes just for Shooting Star, for symmetry and my max magic on both bars. But if you are in a fight with a wide range of enemies that you need a big AoE on, then Fiery Rage is awesome. Skills are Blazing Spear, which got a really nice buff up to 8 seconds from 6. So it matches perfectly with Blockade of Fire now, so you use both of those and on the same clock. Inner Light for the extra match Magicka and the critical. Rearming Trap is a staple for the extra critical damage for Minor Force. And then Harness Magicka because we need to stay alive. Now in this patch we don't need the Rune Focus nearly as much, if ever. I completely took it off my bar. The minor Magicka Steel that a number of abilities give now is more than enough, and even if you're using swords it works. So Magic Templar Sustain is in the best place it's been since I started playing the game. Front bar skills, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Shooting Star, great if you hit a lot of mobs at once. All fire damage. Puncturing Sweep is the main source of damage. I'm going to come back to the ritual. Reflective Light, huge staple, hits 3 targets. Fantastic damage, and it's fire damage, which is key. Jesus Beam took a big nerf, but it is still incredible. I would say start it a little bit later than you used to. Used to mash this button hard at about 30%. Now you kind of need to keep your rotation going, probably into the 20 to 18% range, and even then keep up Reflective Light to keep Burning Spellweave going. Inner Light, double barred again, max Magicka, and the spell crit rating. And then this is sort of the flex spot, Ritual of Retribution. If you want to just kill Bloodspawn or your training dummy quickly, Purifying Light is going to be better. It does a lot of damage and actually does damage up front now, so it's actually better if you're doing purely single target, but in reality really nothing is. So Ritual Retribution is typically on my bar here because it's huge. It heals people, it gives them synergies, lets them proc their Moon Dancer if they have it, like some proc Lunar Bastion, Alkosh, everything. So with that, Purify. So it's really, really good ability. It does damage, and it just is very helpful in trash pulls. So it's a good ability. Now back to my other bar, just to explain something. I'll go into gear then, my choices there. Blazing Spear, 8 seconds. Blockade of Fire, 8 seconds. Trap is more so around 12 or more, but by the time you get back to this bar, it's already procced twice, and you'll want to put it back down. So with everything at 8 seconds, that leads me into what my front bar looks like, which is 5 Moondancer, 5 Burning Spellweave, and 2 Grothar. Everything in gold, everything magic enchanted. The reason I like this is because basically if you look at Moondancer, the 5-piece, unless you're doing a synergy, does nothing. And if you're looking at Burning Spellweave, the 5-piece, unless you're doing flame damage and want to proc this, is doing nothing. So the best way to get the most traits out of them at all times is to keep 4 and 4. So for example, on my back bar, you'll notice that Burning Spellweave only has 4, so I get the critical rating. Moondancer only has 4, so I get the spell damage rating. So that means I'm getting the most out of both of those, but it also means I can't proc either on the back bar, and that's really on purpose, because Blockade of Fire, like I said, is actually 8 seconds. And if you look at Burning Spellweave, the amount of damage getting boosted by 600 is exactly for 8 seconds. If you have Reflective Light, Blockade, and Grothar procced, the chances to not proc this are about 50% after 1 tick, and I think 25% after 2. So basically you are either going to proc this on the first available tick or the second, unless you're just extremely unlucky and your RNG is bad that day. And the reason why that's significant is it has 8 seconds of uptime, it has 4 seconds of downtime. If you have Burning Spellweave at 5 pieces on both bars, you're going to proc it willy-nilly, and not when you're actually doing the most damage, which is during your jabs, which is during Jesus Beam at the end. So this is just having 4 and 4 is a way to control when Burning Spellweave actually procs, which is, in my opinion, superior to just letting it proc all the time. You're going to want both of these sharpened in a raid situation, and some people may disagree with this, but they're wrong. You can switch to a Burning Spellweave Precise Sword to get more crit rating, and I'll tell you why. With all of this penetration, with your passive ability in light armor, that gives 4,884 penetration, with Ellie Drain from the Destruction Staff skill line, with Alkosh going. So with just those 3, you're actually over penetrating, I think, by 100, because most mobs and trials are at 18,200. I think that takes you up to like 18,334. Don't quote me. If you have anything else in addition to that, save that's without Crusher enchantment. That's without minor buffs. You can go 3,000 over that. If that's the situation you're in and your group is that coordinated, then you should offhand a sword that's precise, because having 3.5% more crit is going to outweigh over penetrating by 3,000. But in most other cases, and all the time, I keep both sharpened on. With that said, I mean, the other thing this forces you into is you need to only do your activation of synergies on the front bar, which can kind of be annoying. Everybody knows synergies are kind of buggy. Sometimes you see them, you're on the back bar, you switch, and they're just not there anymore. But this is the best way to do it, is to have it available on the front bar. Grothar, still very powerful, even though it doesn't crit anymore. The max magicka is just massive, and the damage it does AoE is ridiculous. Burning Spellweave, like I showed you, everywhere. Moondancer, Minor Slayer is massive. It adds extra spell damage, and then the synergy is just ridiculous as well, and you're hopefully getting the good RNG and getting the spell damage proc. The other thing to this, and why I prefer to have the Maelstrom staff on the back bar versus the Moondancer staff, is this wonderful bonus it has. When you do light attacks, you get 1,341 extra damage. You are on this bar for such a limited duration that I don't feel like you need to have the spell damage glyph on there like you have on your front bar. So the extra 348 weapon and spell damage for 5 seconds. You are on there for basically the duration that Burning Spellweave is down, which is 4 seconds. So your goal is to just have Burning Spellweave run for the 8 seconds. About 7 seconds you're on your front bar, which amounts to a Reflective Light, a Ritual of Retribution, 4 jabs with lead attacks in between all this, and then another Reflective Light before you bar swap. So really you're on that bar for 7 seconds, and during that 7 seconds you're enjoying the Burning Spellweave bonus, and then you're back to your other bar, which is, you know, a wall, shards, and a trap with light attacks in between, and then potentially a harness magic, depending if you're fighting something hard or not. Sometimes you need to put that in your rotation. Mauve Lorcage comes to mind for that, so you're going to want to keep that up in those cases. But for that reason, I don't feel like having a Moon Dancer staff in the back bar is worth it, because you're sacrificing the fact that you're getting over 1k more DPS a second just from light attacks. So with that said, I'm just going to do a super slow rotation. I am using Spell Power Pots right now. So Spell Power Pot, that takes your spell damage up to 2764. Typically, I'm not even going to cancel any attacks right now, so we just did shards, wall, and a rearming trap. When you switch bars, Reflective Light, you'll notice that takes your spell damage up more for a second there, until the Burning Spellwave went away. You're going to want to do jabs, usually 4 times, and then you're going to want to do a Reflective Light bar swap, and that's when you start over again. You'll see Grothdar proccing from time to time, but really when you speed this up, you're just able to do all this kind of in a row. And then you start over again. The goal is to have obviously wall up the entire time, so speeding up is great. I'm lagging a little bit right now. The servers don't seem very stable today, but that's pretty much the idea. The goal is to have Burning Spellweave only proc in the front bar. You have 8 seconds of wall, you have 8 seconds of shards. You need to keep that rotation in the front bar to about 7 seconds, and that's your time to really blow it out of the water, and then you switch back to the back bar to keep your dots and your rearming trap going. With that said, that's really it for now. I'm happy to answer any questions. I am thinking about posting more of a hybrid build that would be based on buffing the rest of your group while still doing very good DPS. I think it could be useful for things like Dragonstar Arena, so that'll be coming soon. And let me know if you have any questions. Always happy to help. Thanks, guys.